Welcome back to It Takes Two. So let's see where my man Cody fell into.
A box.
Of course. Gotta have the wall moving.
I know this one. Beat it until it crumbles. That's what Final Fantasy characters would do.
No, that's it.
Maybe do it like in the 80s Hulk cartoon. Use your hands and just, force it to stop.
Okay, I would say those things at the side of the wall, you could fit through them. Yeah, but then there's all those gears.
So, how are May and Cody gonna get out of this one?
R2D2 found the right lever.
So there you go. You have to find a way out. So let's see.
Need to find a way out.
Yes.
Was that
bad?
Okay. Who was the one that tried to dart to the side and go through the holes?
I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure what you're.
Yeah, to try and avoid getting squished. There's on the side of the walls. There's those little holes that I'm pretty sure these characters could fit into to escape being crushed.
Oh yeah, I might as well mention this.
The game won't let them.
Yeah, I might as well mention this. Yes, notice there you go. Now Vanessa is the clone, and she did that. Yeah, if you die multiple times on one moment as this, the game will give you a hint by saying, "Hey, by the way, you can use L2 to leave the clone," just reminding you as the game basically nudging you in the right direction.
That being said, interesting way to throw in a situation without any real help and having you to think fast for saving yourself.
And again, since you have infinite lives anyway, it doesn't really become a frustrating bit. Not really. Again, like I said, if you die like 3-4 times, the game will basically nudge you in the right direction anyway, so you'll be fine. All right. This is actually one of my favorite set pieces in the game that we're about to go through.
I think this scene was in one of the trailers.
Yeah, and cool mechanical parts.
No real functionality.
Shut up and enjoy it.
Yes.
It's just there to look cool.
See, this is where my theory comes from about the whole. They really came up with all these cool levels and gameplay gimmicks first. And the story second, because all the effort and love that was been poured into the environments, the levels themselves, the gameplay.
So they Uncharted for it.
I love that line she said earlier. This place is beautiful, but it doesn't make any sense. That sounds like half of YouTube critics these days.
All right, with Libs throwing shit.
Sorry.
With Libs throwing shit at the critics, we now move up past to the next set piece.
Basically, Joker, it's those critics that spend like forever nitpicking stuff.
Okay. We have to be specific because sometimes there is a point to pointing out the problems and details with something. Otherwise, people don't get the message on that. So,
I've told you before. 3 hours doing it though.
Like I've said.
Okay.
To spend twice the length of the movie nitpicking stuff.
Like I said before.
Okay. That is always a bad argument to say. Oh, something's longer than the movie, therefore that invalidates the criticism.
Nitpicking stuff.
One of my favorite.
Yes, Pedro.
Yes, Pedro.
One of my favorite things is the whole like one particular one that I've heard a lot actually is how they'll mention to the point. I mean, I'm kidding. I haven't seen some that will complain about is it a movie that you're mentioning or a game, Dwibs?
In general.
Movie.
In general, okay. In general. Some problem that I have is that sometimes they'll want a game to just be designed a specific way, not necessarily because it's better, but because that's like the way they phrase it makes it more come across as personal preference than anything. Which, don't get me wrong, I understand personal preferences are a thing, but you should try your best to judge the game on its own merits rather than want the game to be the way you personally prefer it to be. Go on.
On that note, though, critiquing a review for supposedly being longer than the product it's based off of, that just doesn't fly because
you missed the second half of what I said.
I wasn't talking about what you said, Dwibs.
Yeah,
you were. You said.
No.
Let him finish, please.
I'm talking about, let me finish. I'm talking about what people in general say, not what you said.
Well, I mean, I did say it, and then I've qualified it with the second half, but it just sounded like you were responding to me.
No, I wasn't. Anyway, Yeah, let's go back. Well, here's the thing. That's one of the big reasons why one of my favorite moments from the Little Prince movie is when the little girl starts saying, "Well, first of all, what was that kid doing in the desert? That's very strange. No one can survive in the desert without food or water." Again, that's a very clever moment. That also, if this is what you said, is like the little girl was so concerned with the logistics of the scene that she completely missed the greater point that the scene was making.
It's a work of fiction for children, child. Please.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the whole point, Shiro. Not
that we're saying that not that I'm saying that you should just go completely willy-nilly, laws of the inner universe be damned. But if all you're doing is just nitpicking,
there's a balance
for hours on end.
Criticism is an act of balance. That's the basic point. But yeah,
I will say this though: people who say, "Oh, just because it's longer than the thing that they're reviewing," okay. That completely negates all the context of it. There are reasons it may be longer than it. A point can actually need to be analyzed here and there as part of the big structure here and there.
Or to showcase actual examples in the case, especially of a video game, to say this boss attack does not work because of X, Y, and Z.
Again, go ahead.
And then there are people who do need comparisons here and there, like. Don't get me wrong, some critics can be annoying, but I do feel like the counters against criticisms can be very cyclical. Don't even get me started on the whole, oh, you need to play a game to properly critique it. Then when somebody buys, plays, and reviews the game, then people say, oh, well, you're part of the problem for buying the game. Like, what do you want?
They want to complain, Joe, but that's what they want, because people on the internet just love to complain, even if they don't have a good reason to. Anyway, to get back to this.
To focus on the game real quick, Pedro, it's a really good thing that we saw Hugo a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
The clock and all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I said, the set pieces, the overall aesthetics, the levels themselves are like that. They're so cool in this game. It's just like. This is actually one of the as a 3D platformer, this game is basically top tier as far as I'm concerned. Like, seriously, like there's so much creativity on display here.
Yeah, I was about to mention before, and tied to also what you said. It does remind me, considering that mentality, it does remind me of the thought process that went into making old school games for the older platforms, the NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, and Saturn. The idea of building the level design, how cool it would have been, and how the obstacle course can be before everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that one particular thing didn't work. So clearly we need to plus the other one. So let's see if we can find it.
To move this key, I guess, for the knight is holding.
It is something you mentioned the story, because I did do some digging, and apparently there is an article where they do mention the idea behind that scene.
Well, let me guess, Joe. It's like Time and Eternity, where in this case, one of the people in the development team was actually getting divorced.
Oh, God. Oh, wait, no. No, not quite, no. Basically, the scene where... Well, the scene that we...
The scene with Rosie the elephant.
About.
Cutie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cutie the elephant. Cutie the elephant. Go on.
Basically, Josef Fares has admitted that was supposed to be sort of a dark, humorous sort of bit, sort of like the bouts of Monty Python and whatnot.
Sorry, Joseph. I feel like you misunderstood the work of the Pythons.
I will admit the big part where I said yikes was him expressing confusion at the fact that people didn't like it. He said, well, come on. In A Way Out, we tortured a guy and people didn't complain about that. And I'm like, Joseph, there's a lot of different context between those.
Also,
yeah,
there's
a completely different context.
People complain about this stuff all the time.
Like, it doesn't make sense in the context of what happened in this game. In A Way Out, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for one thing, in A Way Out, the guy sort of had it coming. Doesn't always make it right.
We control actual criminals. Sure, if I recall correctly, the game tries to make a point of the fact that Leo is never really killed until then, or some shit like that. But it's still actual criminals,
Not only that, but again, I feel like what was the point of making the elephant so damn likable before doing it? Like, at the very least, maybe have her be a dick or something. Like, sure,
I can see the
then
idea.
You could have had the dark humor
Whoa.
stuff, but then we wouldn't feel as bad about it. Like, I mean, it feels like, okay, let me put it like this. It feels like you intentionally make the most delicious meal possible. You wave it in front of people's faces so they can get a good smell of it, and then you just throw it in the trash. Like, it's like you made it so good so that people would feel the pain.
I mean,
and yes.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Let me use an example.
Yes,
The reason, in the early episodes of Yokai Watch, where there's a character called Menjimat who goes through various stuff, the reason the dark humor with that character, whenever that character gets some kind of big horrible thing happen to him, the reason it works is because while Menjimat is not exactly like a super horrible
He's a pervert.
Yeah, the show makes it very clear that he's not exactly a role model for children. So whenever something bad happens to him, it feels like karma. Even though sometimes when it gets into dark humor, is when something like what happens at the very end of his prison subplot. Where something so horrible, something happens to him that's so horrible. He did,
Yes.
He did. But something,
Thank
but
God.
remember, Jova, they spent a shit ton of episodes without even showing him on show
yeah.
to keep us on edge about that.
Well,
but
that's why I just said thank God. Because, yeah, that was some...
yeah, that's
that was
exactly
some high
it. See,
intention there.
yeah, notice Jova's reaction. Thank God when I told him, right? That shows that like the fact that something so horrible happened to him at the end shows that it's now this is a clear moment of dark humor because yes, he deserved it, but at the same time you kind of wrestle a bit. Okay, yes, he did kind of deserve it, but at the same time, man, this is just kind of so messed up and everything.
Even just that though, Yokai Watch as a whole has always sprinkled dark humor throughout it, whereas this game didn't show any instance of that, being the kind of thing it's trying to do, and then suddenly you get the scene with an elephant, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, it shows like I said before, this script needed another draft.
Now that we do know the context behind that scene, though, that does make it a little awkward. Again, thankfully, the gameplay still salvages it. But again, the fact that Joseph Ferris, now that we know his intent with that scene, again, I wonder, this is the same guy who brought us two other great stories, like
Brothers of the Two Sons and The Way Out. Yeah. Like I said, let's wait and see how his next game is before we
yeah.
For all we
I
know,
still want to see the next game just on a gameplay alone.
for all
We can do good.
for all we know, this could be just a misstep. For all we know.
If the next game's a recovery, then I could just brush this off as a one-off hiccup,
Sure.
albeit a pretty bad chronic hiccup.
Sure.
Yeah, part of me does.
If it turns out to be a disaster, then well.
Oh,
Okay,
hey, guys.
We'll put it this way. That "fuck the Oscars" quote. I'm never gonna let him live that down.
Okay.
Whoa.
I do get the feeling that the main reason we hark on that scene so much is only because we've seen him do so phenomenal writing otherwise.
Again,
So
I
it
get the
is
feeling.
weird.
Talk about
Hollywood
this with
rejected
Pedro,
me,
not to-
so I'm gonna make video games.
Wait a minute,
talked
wait a minute,
about
wait a minute,
it.
wait a minute.
Hold
Oh, wait a
on,
minute, hold on, Dwibs, I gotta
Oh
say this.
shit!
Guys,
Boss battle.
it was a
A
sword.
little mechanical ball.
Hey
Yes.
guys, I just realized something. It was a sword that unlocked the way. Does that make it a keyblade of sorts?
Yes.
Kind of.
There you go.
It's like I
even as the
discussed,
keyblade at the end.
It's like I discussed about a couple of days ago, actually, with Pedro. It's like Akira Hino recently. Yeah, the Nino Kuni movie sucked, but I'm not gonna all of a sudden think, oh no, that's it, everything is gonna right from this point on. It's gonna be just as bad as that or worse.
Not to mention at the same
next fingers.
Not to mention at the same time that the movie came out, anime was still going on, and that anime is fantastic. So it's just a matter that it doesn't matter how passionate and talented you are. Eventually, you're gonna make mistakes.
True, I mean,
gun ho, and I think
like-
that's his biggest problem. He needs to just tone it down a little bit.
I do wonder if we could apply that also to Stanley Kubrick in regards to AI. Like, yes, I know technically he wasn't alive to see that through, but technically that ending was all his idea. And
Well,
Well,
God
that's the
bless
thing.
you.
That I wonder how much of that and I haven't seen the movie, but from what I've heard, the rest of the movie didn't seem to connect with that ending, and Spielberg wrote the script for that film.
Well, here's the thing about.
Here's the thing. The script for that movie was initially all written by Stanley Kubrick, and a lot of people theorize that the reason it was like that was
Actually, Jova.
Kubrick.
Well, actually, Jova, Kubrick never actually got around to actually start the writing process because he literally died a week after Eyes Wide Shut came out.
And remember, Jova, as a result, the screenplay was done by
Spielberg himself, actually. Spielberg himself wrote the script too.
No, actually, give me a second.
It says screen story by Ian Watson, screenplay.
Yeah, Ian
by
Watson.
Steven
There you go.
Spielberg.
This guy,
Screen
Ian
story,
Watson.
though, that's the difference.
Well, sure, but it's still, not to ping entirely things on either Spielberg nor Kubrick, because Ian Watson is a terrible writer. So I'm pretty also guessing that not all of it, but a couple of the flavors of the actual movie of AI might be on him.
Let me acknowledge Jova's.
Not only that, we do know for sure that the ending was.
Yeah, I was about to acknowledge that. I will acknowledge that. Yes, the ending was indeed Spielberg's idea. That being said,
Kubrick's idea.
Sorry, Kubrick's idea. Sorry, I apologize. That being said, I would have liked to see what Kubrick's proper context for that ending would have been had he actually been able to see that movie through. Because for all I know, maybe he could have made that ending work.
I mean, again, and even still. We could argue some of his movies were lesser than others here and there, but it's literally frozen in time.
Not me. Not me. I love all of his movies, to be honest with you.
I mean, regardless, though, wouldn't say he was perfect in regards of his films. Is my point here? Like, there were some blemishes here and there throughout some.
Like what?
I suppose one thing you could throw is Spartacus, since that wasn't entirely his film.
Yeah, well, Spartacus was a movie that he himself hated because he wasn't given the creative control he would have wanted. That's no secret.
I don't think it was like that awful.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
I can find to a bad point is whitewashing
some
of
no.
the characters.
Spartacus is still a really good movie.
That was happening all the time.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing too. Like Spartacus is a really great movie. Still, that's not the issue. It's just that it's not the movie that Kubrick wanted to make originally because this was his first time working as a director on hire. And he hated the experience, and from now on, I only want to work on projects of mine, projects where I have complete control. And thanks to his popularity, he was able to achieve that.
And again, there's the obvious blemish everyone mentions with The Shining. Mind you,
I still love that movie, but
mind you, no. The movie itself is great, but it's not perfect in regards to how it handles certain characters.
Sure.
What, like the casting of Jack Nicholson?
No, okay, look, I will say this. The casting was not the problem. It was how they handled the character development, regardless.
Anyway,
that's pretty much the thing everyone's pointed out here. Regardless, so it goes back to our main point. To bring it back to this game, it just brings up the point, though. Like, there's no creator who's had a completely spotless career, regardless.
Sure. I don't know. I will argue Alfred Hitchcock probably would be the closest you could think of. But
didn't he have that one slump of his own?
I actually, instead of Jova, a question tied to what you just said, because I am curious and I don't have much extensive knowledge about her career. Has Gail Simone ever wrote a bad comic book?
Oh, that's another one. I don't know of a bad one. She has?
But yes, she has.
Like, I can imagine, I just don't know what context might be on that. Probably something titled The New 52 before she was actually fired, I guess.
She was the writer for the Batgirl New 52 one. And, whenever it comes to anything New 52 related, given how that was like at the start before she got booted off the title, I will admit the New 52 lines do have that caveat that those were probably some nightmarish projects to work with, given how, it's already been well documented that the New 52 was not handled the best upon its start.
There we go.
Ooh, that's nice, actually.
Meddling to how writers were constantly running like chickens with their heads cut off, wanting to know what was okay or what wasn't. Oh!
You see, Remedy, this is how you should have done it.
What, jumping off the
Quantum
cliff?
No, time manipulation, environmental puzzles.
Powers, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I swear, Quantum Break is quite a fascinating puzzle.
To Remedy's credit, Microsoft cut that game's legs by what they originally intended by canceling the whole TV stuff that game was made for. So
to be fair, though, weren't the story and gameplay main itself still Remedy's wheelhouse?
Well, no, definitely. Like, I'm not trying to absolve Remedy of all fault. I'm just saying that at the same time, it's a fault on both ends. Like, Remedy's what Remedy was able to put out was still really bad, even on conceptual terms, not just execution. But Microsoft did. I'm still convinced that game was originally going to be a lot more content because there's so many plots that are flat out unfinished. Not to mention live action.
Going to be
not to mention live action footage from the trailers that never made it into the final game.
Yeah.
Do you think it was maybe going to be something like Games as a Service, where it would, of course, start with the initial campaign, but then made add on more, especially given the whole TV show thing?
That's a thing. I could. I don't really want to go into a rant about Games as a Service. I could, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't really think, especially because the term had not been, being the idea being invented.
Okay. Obviously, not referring to it by the term at that point, but maybe they were going for what Games as a Service would become. And let me rephrase: what Games as a Service should ideally be. In the sense...
Also, Jova, it's actually more easy with an actual more familiar term. It was, trying to apply the cross-media project, by being a game that was tied to this TV show that, would have been intertwined. There was like a sci-fi MMO that tried to do the same thing by having the TV show reflect the events that were going on in the MMO, depending on the choices the player made on the long run. And unfortunately, it didn't pan out as much as they wanted. But there was that kind of a process. But let me put it in the simplest of terms.
Okay. I should clarify something. I refer to it as Games as a Service in the sense that it would have been an ongoing game plus an ongoing TV series, since, again, initially they wanted to make
logic
it like
Jova, any MMO is a game as a service.
Well, yeah, technically.
they technically are. Haven't you heard of the hit MMO award?
So is Smash against the service?
You're allowed to make the joke when you actually start playing it for yourself.
Anyway, let me try.
Okay, the thing is, too, it's like, Games as a Service was a term coined much later after MMOs, but yeah, for all intents and purposes, MMOs are technically a form of games as a service.
Well, even more reason to not associate with, what's used a lot on the internet as a buzzword, as a negative term.
Well, okay, it's kind of similar to subverting one's expectations. It's not supposed to be a bad thing, but the examples are more often than not bad.
To close it quick with the statement that I had towards Quantum Break, it's actually very easy. If your game relies this much about a TV show to the point that when it actually has to be retooled, most of the story is gone, that's a problem. That's a problem in anything on itself, because a game should rely on gameplay first, unless it's a visual novel.
The environment is cool.
It actually really is. I noticed before also, Shiri, that the golden, set of stairs that you had to create as well.
Like I said, literally, I'm not even kidding you. Literally, I will still defend that. Take out the writing, and the equation becomes an equation of flawlessly executed stuff. Like seriously,
this particular environment reminds me a lot.
This game never stops.
Reminds me of those games like Clockwork Knight or Castle of Illusion, actually.
Mm-hmm.
There are some gameplay bits where I do feel like sometimes the level gimmicks drag on a bit, but again, they're still fun to start with, always, and that is one thing I will give this game here.
It also works as a technical showcase idea, the idea of what the team is capable of producing, both visually and for the actual gameplay.
Very much so. What did this game do, Pedro?
Actually, it sold extremely well. Actually,
yeah.
It sold 1 million units in a month, and then 2 million units the next month. So yeah, it basically. I don't know how the sales are right now because the last time Hazelight report on sales was at 2 million units at 2 months of being out. But for a while, it was basically selling 1 million units per month, basically.
Again. 2 million sales. That's something that some AAA companies shoot for but fail to. And mind you, that was in 2 months. So.
That's the thing, Joe. Joseph Ferris is incredibly popular, actually. People, not just as a figure himself, but his games genuinely have a very strong following right now.
That's because Joseph Ferris is a great combination. He's a genuine... one, he's a genuinely good guy. Two,
Ooh.
yeah, he talks a big game, but he can back it up, thank goodness.
Oh,
Three,
look-
he has not really let his fans down, like, ever yet.
No. For as much as we complain about the story of this game, the truth of the matter is that the general consensus from everybody is that this game is great, and people don't generally tend to have big. Don't get me wrong, there are the complainers, but if you go check the react, not just from critics, like fans, gamers in general, they tend to really love the game and they really enjoy it, and they don't seem to even mind the Cutie the Elephant moment even much. I've seen that plenty of playthroughs on YouTube where people are people either like it or just don't let it ruin the game for them or something. Like most people tend to just be really awesome with this game actually. So
Also, Jova, look
That's
at that.
pretty much
The boss of his level is literally Songbird.
go on, Jova.
Yes, it is. But yeah, what you described is pretty much me with this game. Like, despite my issues with the story, the gameplay is just good enough that I still would consider this a fun experience. Even when some levels do drag on a bit more, the gimmicks still are fun enough here and there, and at least most levels manage to not wear out.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome.
Now you're talking about. I'm glad this level has quote unquote dragged, because now we're gonna get what I think is the best part actually.
Ooh.
Right? We're going to reverse everything, aren't we?
Well, let's see.
Nice work, Cody. Oh, there they are.
Oh, we're almost there, actually.
All right.
Right,
Should be
let's go.
smooth.
The boss to be.
So guys, should be smooth sailing from here, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
It's not like the
sure.
bird is still alive or anything.
Again, it's not
one
one
thing-
boss fight.
To follow up on what Tail said earlier, another interesting thing about you're talking about technical showcase, Tail, like the fact that they were able to get this running on even Xbox One at 1080p 60 FPS with no frame rate drops that I can see is also a great achievement on their part.
Mm-hmm. Whoa.
Time's running out.
All right, so instead of a traditional boss battle, we're going to have how should I put this? A set piece, more so of a set
Basically,
piece.
survive this until the end.
Okay.
Let's just
so
say
one thing I'll-
let's just say the game is about to throw a lot of crap at you, both literally and figuratively. Go on, Joe.
I will give this. I do like how this level set piece went from what was essentially more like a humble-looking clock to a much more grander
A
clock
literal
tower.
clock
here
tower,
in the-
yeah.
That's what I love about.
Element-
That's what I love about the way the game is paced. Naturally, every time you start a level, it starts off simple and then it gets progressively grander and grander and grander and more epic. And it's always remember how we ended the first stage, fighting a squirrel on top of an underpants using as a plane. So that's how these stages are. They just keep ramping up. Then
Okay, the constant camera, those camera changes just then, and the control reversal that would have caused would have really fucked me over.
Wait. Oh my
Free
god,
fall.
it's Spider-Man Edge of Time!
I was gonna say.
And
Oh, Jova, no, you just reminded me of something I read today.
how tall is this Alchemax clock tower?
No, you see, it's because they're really
they literally have
tiny.
the,
God of
they literally have
War.
the same tubes and everything. Wow.
It reminded me.
You were saying, Dutchie?
The God of War all games also tended to have some of these stuff when you were flying. You were saying that? Go on.
Like earlier today, there was an article that there was going to be they were close to remastering Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions.
Well,
Really?
I personally I'm okay with that. I mean, even if
Who would be the
if
publisher of that, well, considering Activision.
there you go.
is,
See, rewind.
So how do you actually get out of that situation then?
Oh,
Yeah.
the clock tower is literally going to
Yeah,
happen.
the level. At this point, the level is literally messing with us. There you
Time
go.
is meaningless.
All right, now-
literally.
Well, though.
So
Well,
yeah.
it bites the dust, though.
All right, so now we have to destroy these
Game
clocks.
concept.
So basically, if I remember correctly, yeah, we're almost at a point where we're going to take. There you go. We have to destroy the clocks, as you can see. There you go. Basically, the idea is that we have to try to put all of the lights on the thing. Fortunately, you don't have to do it all at once. You can take your time and hit them as you can. So you can get there. Just keep at it, and you'll eventually get it right.
Good job. Good job. This is a kind of time loop. that makes you repeat your actions, not your words.
Like I said, the game is generous when it comes to its checkpoint system and even its difficulty design anyway. So like you can, like the game is more concerned with the fun elements of co-op rather than traditional challenge, more so. Boom! All right, here and actually,
It's somewhere Michael Bay creams his pants.
and now,
why.
and guess what? I also love this part, Dolan. And there we go.
Cody? Are you okay? Are you doing this?
So there you go. While I try my best to steer all the pieces throughout the timeline, Vanessa has to make her way all the way back to where we came from. So time for some time manipulating platforming.
Across an entire
So what is this,
explosion.
the Prince of Persia?
Sure.
I wish. Remember that the time manipulation in the Prince in the Sand saga of Prince of Persia did not extend it too much. Sure, it had some cool stuff and cool ideas, but a couple of them were mostly just plot relevant only. You cannot actually apply them in the gameplay, gameplay proper. So.
I'm trying to think of like what other platformer has time manipulation like
Braid.
the Time Sweeper.
Braid.
Yeah, but this is a lot less convoluted, you know?
And less pretentious.
Pretentious,
Wait,
yes.
now.
Wait. You played Braid, Shiroi?
I've watched videos on it. It's not really something I'm gonna play.
Oh, but imagine the commentary we could make of that.
Here's the thing, Joe. A game like Braid does not have much to talk about aside from the little twist at the end. Otherwise, it's good in terms of gameplay in order to make you entertained, pretentious as I mind you, but not so much as a commentary material. So maybe let's look
Question.
for that.
Would you say it's one of those rare cases where the ending manages to pretty much sully the experience?
I'll think about it. In the meantime, Pedro.
Go on, Pedro.
I have to say, I found it really impressive also that they're still able to manipulate the entire explosion. Look at that. We're literally watching the cutscene graphics rewind on real time.
Imagine how much
really good.
Imagine how much it must have taken to render each platform and then control it as such here and there. Like, also they have to plan out the movements so that it can be possible for the player to make their way through.
Okay, I know jack shit about programming, but I guess on a conceptual level it might be less complicated than you make it sound, Jova. The idea is simply to program the event and then to make it sure it can be shown in reverse, and just separately have the model of your game, your playable character interacting with the event as it's happening. I'm not sure if I explained properly, and again, I can potentially be completely wrong on the matter because again, not a programmer.
I suppose when you put it like that, it could have been a case of them just figuring, okay, let's plan out it one piece at a time, and then that pretty much made it solvable already from that regard, in that they plan out how each piece moves here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Still, though, I mean, it is impressive nonetheless.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wonder if any other platformer game has done it like this before. I feel like there have been, but I can't remember.
Again, Braid.
Blinks, but it's been a while.
And also, sorry.
I guess to an extent, Quantum Break, but only.
Oh,
to
please, Jova. The set pieces, the one, even the best set piece of Quantum Break is way more scripted than this, though.
Yeah, I was about to mention. Also, you literally broke the
like Quantum Break wishes it had time traveling gimmicks this cool.
Again, the closest was that ship elements. That ship crashing in the graveyard, but again, scripted as fuck. Oh, I get it. You're literally following the trace of the statues.
All right. And now we're going to destroy them Sonic Color style.
Literally again, rehearse time once more.
And now we're recovering the heart. It's midnight. Everything happens at midnight.
There we go.
But they still don't get to be human again.
To be human
Yeah.
again, yes.
I was just
human
about to
again.
say
Yeah.
that.
The guys have got it. That's the plot twist. Dr. Hakim was actually fucking with him the whole time, and they never turned human.
Yeah, it's
Now
where if it turns
kiss
out
the-
Dr. Akimi's actually the final boss, I'm probably just gonna, be probably pull back everything that they said about him because that will be the signs to be noted. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Christ.
Yeah, I feel like I want to punch you in the face.
Book of truth? Okay. That's the way you want to go?
They've learned to collaborate in their
Can
hatred
you
for you.
stop?
Well, that's one way to go about it, I guess.
Okay, if that was this boy, that might be deceptively ingenious.
In the meantime, there you
I
go.
don't-
Here's what was actually happening in the real world. In the meantime, there you go. The clock.
They literally smashed the clock.
Or no, maybe they fixed it.
Again, the game never flat out states it verbally, but my interpretation, as well as Vanessa's, was that they're in an alternate.
Look, I was right. Apparently, the clock is working again now, thanks to their.
Exactly.
things.
Like I said, mine and Vanessa's theory is that they're in an alternate magical version of this reality that affects the real world of sorts. Because I've seen this kind of thing in fiction before.
Isn't that kind of obvious from the get-go, though? I mean, I
Well, remember, Joe, but that's the thing, Joe. You guys keep asking, how big is this tree? How big is this clock? Well, that's exactly it. It's an alternate magical version of reality.
Metaphorical,
Yeah.
Oh, I get that. When we ask how big this is here and there, we're mainly talking about how it's weird that it started off like this while in the magical world and then suddenly becomes bigger while in said same magical world. Now, if we're comparing it to the real world, yeah, definitely an alternate reality that affects the normal reality because
Again-
that's where our characters are trapped.
Again, it's also serves as an excuse for the developers to just go wild with whatever set pieces and levels they can come up with. That way, they don't have to be bound by the real world restrictions and shit like that. Anyway, see you for the next part, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.